My mouse is going slow. I think we're on now.
Yeah, we're live, baby.
What's up, Mario?
What's going on, man?
Good. Long couple of weeks, man. I know we've been kind of running ragged. I know last week was my fault. You know, work is just kind of getting crazy right now. So it's been challenging. So, but I'm glad we're able to connect. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now in the market. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. It's kind of crazy, you know. Freight rates
Yeah.
dropping, new CEOs, a lot of things going on. But let's jump right in. I mean, what's happening with the CEO stuff? You know. Oh no, we do fuel prices first. Sorry.
Let's do fuel prices. There we go. Fuel prices. How bad are fuel prices? I mean, you're in California, so you're probably getting hit the worst over there.
So I filled up my little Beamer, yesterday for $6.99 a gallon. So it was $125 for my tiny little Beamer to get filled up, which is pretty crazy.
It's absurd.
Some places in LA, were above $7. I saw, So how is it in Chicago?
We're like in the $5-6 range. Mid fives, getting to the high fives, depending on where you go. You could possibly see $6 in some parts of probably downtown Chicago. I don't really go down into the city all that much. So, but around me, it's about $5.50, bordering $6, which is kind of insane. So, and I could just imagine what it's affecting some of these drivers. I'm speaking to some of these truckers, and it's costing them like between $500 and $800 to fill up their gas tanks.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine, and they're actually paying it out of their own pocket.
Yeah.
So it's not like a lot of these companies thinking that these truckers are, getting paid or prepaid or anything like that. They're laying out a lot.
At least we can still get fuel though, right? I was talking to my agent yesterday who was in Sri Lanka that the queue right now for gasoline is like 5 or 6 hours. The queue for diesel is 11 hours. So you have to be in line for 11 hours to fill up your diesel truck in Sri Lanka right now.
That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
It's starting to look like Venezuela. I mean, this is just absolutely absurd. I mean, it's what are you going to do? Well, hopefully, we've been talking about this. Hopefully everybody's preparing for this and explaining to their clients, what's really going on out there with fuel. You're going to be continuously seeing increases in fuel rates. The national average keeps popping up. It's crazy. And I've actually heard that, our inflation is actually possibly going to get up to almost 12% by the end of July, which is going to be nuts. And people laughed at me when I told them that it was going to go crazy, but I'm not going to get into my tangent. Let's go back into it. And then how about the new CEO for Flexport, huh? Yesterday, I posted the article of when, that he resigned. And then ironically today, boom, Flexport.
But so I don't know much about this. So did he actually resign or did they just replace him?
No, he resigned. He resigned from Amazon. And then from what I'm reading, this new gentleman, David Clark, will go into effect, I believe, September 1st. But I think that Peterson or whatever his name is going to train him for a couple of months. I think they're going to be shadowing 3 to 6 months before going through the full transition. But my thought process is like, why? Like, why would you go after this guy? I mean, listen, there's a lot of haters out there when it comes to Mr. Peterson.
Right.
So there's no doubt. And when someone's successful, you're going to have a ton of haters. I always love to get into it. And there's 2 people that I know, one of them personally, that are really against him, that do a bit of, a bit of hype on some of the stuff. But then there's also, he also has a big following, right? So
you got to give it to this guy. I mean, you're always going to have haters when you're successful, right? I mean, I think you and I both had our fair share of that,
For sure.
And I think I mean, you got to give it to this guy. He did build a pretty sizable business,
For sure.
Yeah, they're maybe inflating the numbers a little bit here and there, but I mean, I mean, they built something from the ground up. Yeah, they had a ton of funding, but just only money doesn't buy you business, right? So there's few things that they have done right, I got to say. And to build something in that magnitude, got to give it to this guy. I know he gets a lot of shit for the stuff that he's doing, but I got to say, I'm impressed. What they have done so far. I think it's getting a big wig CEO in kind of just shows them a little bit their pathway of maybe going public in a few years, right?
Sure.
And this is maybe why they're taking someone like a big name, like an Amazon CEO, right?
Yep.
And I don't think the Amazon CEO was that long at Amazon, right?
No, I don't believe so. But it's just such a big step to have someone like that gentleman to come join the organization. I mean, this
You're
is
basically going from the biggest logistics provider in the world to Flexport, right?
like, I mean, and this, and I know we talk about this and I bash it all the time. We buy business. That's how we grow. We buy business. And I think this is a prime example of, I mean, he's just buying this following. And the reason why I was telling you that, I was talking about the haters and vice versa, is because I think that this move will probably try to bring a little bit more substance to Flexport.
I think so too. I think they're going to take. I think they're going to be taken a little bit more serious with a CEO like that. My concern would be still hiring a CEO that is not really in the industry. You can argue Amazon is a logistics provider, but how many relationships does Amazon actually have with the shipping line? I know they're also a freight forwarder, but they don't have the long-lasting relationship that maybe a Panalpina, Kuno Nagel, or I don't know, DB Schenker or a DHL CEO would have, or CH Robinson. Like a CEO like that will probably have a better relationship with the shipping line. But I've seen it many times, especially in tech companies, that many times they're hiring CEOs with very little knowledge of the business, but obviously very big knowledge on how to run a business successfully, right? And maybe there's something to be said about that you don't need the know-how in shipping as a CEO, right?
Sure. And it's funny because, being in logistics practically my whole life and realizing, how people throw names around, this is going to be, I believe, also another tactic that Flexport is going to say is saying, hey, we've got our new CEO comes from Amazon. So we definitely know what we're doing and talking about, which personally between me and you, I think it's great. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of, Fugazi, we'll see what he has to do. We'll see what
and I don't know how much more money can he raise can they raise in, I feel like at a, what are they at a $5 billion valuation or something like that? Or was it $8 billion? I don't even know. I don't even remember.
But the crazy thing about it is we can't, there's nothing, he keeps everything hidden in blocks. So you can't really tell what the real true evaluation.
That's why I'm excited, buddy, if they actually do go public. If they do go public, it's going to be like a freaking open book, brother. It will be so interesting to see.
Two things going to happen. Either he's going to get mad respect, or this is going to be one of the biggest Enron scandals in logistics. It's just
Well, I mean, there's many companies that went public and just traded sideways for many, many years, right? I mean, look at some of the ocean care. Look at Hapag-Lloyd, right? Hapag-Lloyd at $50 a share, then spiked to like $100 a share, went right back down to $50 a share, and remained at $50 a share for the last 2 years.
Market manipulation, that's how people know what they're doing, and the ones that don't know what they're doing lose money. But it's still a good move. But the one thing that I'm thinking about is maybe Flexport too is trying to really get heavy into the e-commerce world, and this is also possibly a move into getting into that to become even bigger again.
Well, and if you see what their clients are, right? I want to say majority of, so first off, they're very import driven, right? And second off, I think they're very Shopify, like procurement, the logistics, I want to call this, like the guy that starts, I don't know, his own soap business or something online and uses Flexport to ship the product in a container that gets into the warehouse. It's kind of like almost like a fulfillment play than really a logistics play, right? And I think there is a space in the industry for that, right? Because I don't think there's very little companies that provide the full spectrum of ocean, air, warehousing fulfillment, right? You have many companies that do fulfillment. You have many companies that do ocean freight. I think you have very little companies to do both combined.
Listen, Ryan definitely didn't get to where he's at by being stupid.
No,
Tripping
give it
on
to this guy. That's what I keep saying.
I think he started with Import Genius, is what I read at one point. Which once you start with that kind of a platform, with that kind of data, you can go many directions, which he definitely did and has made quite a bit of money. So that's a good thing. But I'm hoping they do go public. I'd really like to know and see how it is that their company has functioned after a lot of the things that I've read in the market. A lot of talk out there about Flexport. But let me tell you something.
I think this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. I think they're either going to get bought in the next 2 years or they're going to go public in the next 2 years. I don't foresee them. I don't foresee them doing another round of investment, right? Because the last round of investment was, I think, $1 billion or something like that. I mean, it was a lot of money, right?
Sure.
And so for me, they got to go public and they got to do something there, So.
Well, either way, I always wish all good companies to do well, but I just think that there's something more here that we don't see. And at the end of the day, there's also a lot of companies that are coming into the markets. There's a lot of new tech companies that are coming in. There's a lot of new tech players coming in that we're not seeing on the surface. They're kind of like, these hidden, these huge monsters under that are going to be coming out soon. So, guys, keep your feelers out there and watch some of these new tech bases coming up and really competing that do integrate with steamship lines and all. So, all right. And now the one topic that I know that started this whole thing for me, at least, besides the ever giving getting stuck in the Suez Canal, ocean freight rates. They've always been very close to me. And I know I've always had my weekly posts on my own logistics channel, but with the summer, with my son's baseball and all this stuff going on, it's been challenging. Hopefully I get back to that. But ocean freight rates, Mario, when we spoke or when I first started, I saw rates go from $3,500, $5,000 all the way to as high as almost $40,000.
Right.
All within a 2-year period. Right. I'd even say a little less, but I'm looking at the rates today, Mario. Do you see something wrong? Like, I think I got a quote today for like $7,000 for freight coming out of China.
I think it's a healthy freight rate personally, right? I mean, everybody knows the $12,000 to $18,000 that we saw on an inbound to the West Coast is not sustainable for anybody, And I think when I talk to most of my shippers and my customers, they're saying, Mario, I know we can't go back down to 1,500. But just get me something reasonable, right? And if you have a $7,000 rate, I think that's reasonable.
Agreed.
I mean, it's still crazy, but it's not like 10 times crazy. Okay, it's 3 or 4 times crazy. So I the only thing I don't know is this COVID related with China shutting down, right, and a lot of the factories not operating, and that driving a lot of less demand there. Or is this something that's going to be long term? That's the only thing I don't know, because the export freight rates on the U.S. export, it's just still been extremely tight, and that's normally a sign that we're not quite through the bad weather yet, So once the export, because export being as tight as it is, means that there's still a lot of empties being repositioned, right? That's the main reason why the export market is so tight. Right. And with the export market being this tight, that means the carriers are moving so much empties over, and there's got to be a reason why they do that. Right. Otherwise they would take a good freight at $1,500 out of LA to Vietnam. They would take that all day long. They wouldn't move an empty for that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's why I'm thinking it's I don't know. I think it's going to be short term. It's my opinion, but I could be wrong.
I think so too. I think it's going to be short term. I mean, you read it. A lot of these carriers are saying, hey, listen, the rates are only going to go up. So, I mean, regardless of what your issues are, a lot of blank sailings, a ton of blank sailings, which is destroying supply chain. And also not only that, but what I'm seeing that's happened on the West Coast is now really happening and mirroring what occurred on the West Coast, on the East Coast. New York is now having the same challenges that the Port of California has, the Port of LA.
I actually think it's worse right now, buddy.
It's crazy. It's not. New York is nuts. I don't touch New York. It's crazy.
No, I know. I was talking to some of my truckers last week. They're not accepting any export loads anymore. No, still not. It's crazy.
Because the problem, Mario, is there's not the port is not accepting any of the empties, and there's no chassis. All of these companies are sitting on these containers and on these chassis, and they can't return them. The truckers are getting pissed, and there's a company that actually goes out to where you're at, takes the container off of the chassis, does a flip so that the driver can go use that chassis to come back to reflip it on to do what you need to do.
Well, and in New York, which an advantage that we have on the West Coast here, our ports are more or less 24/7 operation, where in New York, I think they're still only 8 to 5, right? So 6 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the imports and exports. They have different hours. But it's something that is completely insane. But I'm hoping, it's funny because supply chain really is at the core of a lot of the inflationary issues and a lot of these challenges. And there has to be some more attention put into it. I know that a lot of people are making some really good money. It's a great time to be in it. But eventually something's going to have to give. And I'm just hoping that, it's not too late, because a lot of people are suffering, Mario. A lot of people are suffering. And not only that, but we forgot one thing that's very important is, and we could discuss this on the next one, is the shortage that we have for people in this industry and how many people are leaving the industry.
Yeah, it's so funny because I just talked to a very good dear friend of mine who's done. He bought a franchise and I think started a Taco Bell franchise or something, because he's like, I just want a normal business. I want normal business hours, So that's exciting. Let's talk about that next week, man. I think this was a great show.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a recruiter on. I'll talk to Mr. Bill Paul and see if he'll come on and bid a little with us. So.
Do it.
Right. Besides that, Mario, it's been good, man. Take care, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.
All right, buddy. See you later.
You got it. Take care and be well.